Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Wednesday class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhu Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityorma amritam gamya. Om sehna vavtu, sehna bhunaktu, saviryam karvavahi, tejasvi navadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om. Today's topic is about karmas. I know we have talked about it many times before, but this topic is so deep, so vast. Even Lord Krishna uses this word. He says this philosophy of karma is gahan, very hard to understand. And we are in this karma yoni, so it's very important for us to at least make an attempt to understand what we are working with, why we are here, what we need to do to make this karmic journey a little better for us. This word karma is used very loosely. What is the actual meaning of it? Some say that it's a law of cause and effect. Others, they understand it as action and reaction. Some people say it is as you sow, so shall you reap. How does karma came into being? Think about it, that all our subtle impressions of all our actions, whether they were mental, verbal, or physical. Okay. Mental means our thoughts. Verbal is what we say, vacha. And physical is through our body, hands, feet, eyes, ears, whatever we do. Mental, verbal, physical, all the actions are stored in the mind in the form of memories. And those are the subtle impressions of our karmas. When we keep performing the same actions, we reinforce these memories. And there comes a time that they become so strong, they turn into habits. So mental habits also. Sometimes we think that habits are only physical, mental habits. If we keep on worrying constantly, it becomes our habit. On the other hand, if we keep on repeating the name of God mentally, that becomes our habit too. So that's why they become so strong, they turn into habits. And what really happens then? These habits, they start dictating our balance. So good habit means there's a good kind of a balance in our body. As long as we remember the cause of these habits and the consequence of giving into them, that means just going with the habits, we can change them if our power of will and determination is strong. So that means if there was an old habit which was taking us towards the wrong goal, we can change it. It's in our hands. And we have a fervent desire to overcome our habits, we can gradually erase the old habit patterns until they just become simple memories. Okay? So, in other words, memories are not as strong. They are just a shade is there. We remember I used to do that. And again, this could be good or bad. I used to walk every day. It just becomes a habit if you stop doing it. So it was a habit, then it becomes a memory, just a fade memory. But through constant reinforcement, some habits become so strong, they create deep grooves, not only in the conscious mind, but also in the nervous and glandular systems, our musculature system, in our senses also, and they reach all the way into the unconscious mind. So it's like from the top layer, it just keeps on seeping down and down and down and down. And it takes housing there in our unconscious mind. The strong impressions of actions having the unconscious mind as their domain influence our entire personality. So unconscious, all those impressions in the unconscious, they just don't sit there idly. They do affect our personality. And personality could be the physical part of our body. It could be our behavior. It could be our how deep we can sleep, how easy we can help somebody, or how easily we can hurt somebody. All of it. In the yogic literature, the name of this unconscious material is sanskaras. That's why we often say that when we look at somebody behaving in a certain way, looking at ourselves certain way, we say, the person has good sanskars. A wise person can tell, looking at the baby also. Newborn baby, you can tell whether that baby has brought good sanskaras or not. That's why in a Hindu tradition, our rishis, they told us, when you enter into the family life, when you're ready to conceive or bring another being into your household, pray to God. Go to your guru. Pray to God. Get the help from a guru so that a new person who comes to your household is bringing good sanskaras. They understood. Our rishis understood this whole dynamics of karmas. Sanskaras are subtle impressions of our previous actions that normally are not known by our conscious mind. That's why I said only a wise person can see this. But these sanskaras influence our present activities. Good sanskaras will propel us towards good deeds. Bad sanskaras, they will make us do bad deeds. Depending on the nature and characteristics of a particular sanskar or group of sanskar. Okay, there are groups also. We find ourselves inclined toward a particular lifestyle. Environment, academic discipline, type of entertainment, and many other things which we do in life. Even to the level that, hey, can I keep the regularity in my life or not? My guru said, wake up at a certain time, sleep at a certain time, do exercise, do meditation. Gurus tell everybody, but some people can follow, the other can't. It's because of the sanskaras. Sanskaras seem to be more powerful than the forces of our conscious mind and even intellect. Because something which is subtle is more powerful. Sanskaras are subtler than the mind and intellect. From deep within, the sanskaras influence our mind and intellect. As a result, we often know what is right, and yet do not find ourselves fully motivated to do it. Just as we know what is wrong, and yet under the influence of an unknown, irresistible force, we do it anyway. We know lying is bad, we still end up lying. Then we justify ourselves. We don't want to hurt the person. That's just a justification. Lie is a lie. Such situations reveal the conflict between our conscious understandings and our sanskaras. The progression from action to memory, from memory to habit, from habit to compulsion, and from compulsion to sanskaras, finally results in the formation of karma. At this stage, the sanskaras which have now become karma, like my karma, are so subtle, so deeply embedded in the recesses of the unconscious mind. They are completely outside of our awareness. So this is a karma. What we do ordinarily, those are called kriyas. This is a karma that has become our karma. Because we do not even know they are there, we have no means of bringing them into our conscious awareness. And there are so many of them also. They have survived so long, have been so well nourished. They are most powerful aspects of our personality. In fact, they are the makers of our inner being. Karmas keep influencing and manipulating our body, our senses, our mind, ego, and intellect, as long as we are alive, even though we are blind to their influence. Because we are so busy looking outwardly, we are so tempted with this Maya that we forget what is really happening inside. See, just like we just keep on taking care of the externals, and our inner body, when it becomes sick, when our knees don't cooperate, our back doesn't cooperate, our eyes cannot see, our ears cannot hear, then we wonder what happened. Because we did not pay attention to it. We were too busy looking outwards. But this is even deeper than that, the karmas of ours. When the bond between the body and the mind is severed by death, they become the sole motivating factors. The journey of life after death is carried on by our karmas. Remember that. The other day, somebody asked me, I was doing that 13th day of prayers after the person dies. Those people asked me, will our mother as a soul leave today? I said, there's no rule like that. 13th day morning is for you. Your mother, according to her karmas, either left right away or could be still here. Karmas dictate our journey of life after death. On a particular practical level, how do our karmas affect our lives? Let's look at that. Because we are living in this body right now, let's pay attention to that first. Our karmas influence not only our behavior, but also our surroundings and circumstances of our relationships. Karmas are the makers of our destiny. This is why the scriptures say it is karma that brings us into this world. It is karma that makes us feel that someone is our soulmate, or even someone we can't even tolerate. It is the karmas who bring the children into our lives, or the grandchildren, or other relatives, or enemies also. Karmas. And how long they're going to stay with us, it also is dictated by the karmas. Karmic factors stir the subtle realm of providence, resulting in such events as winning a lottery or becoming the victim of a natural disaster. We see that natural disasters are happening. Even now, people in Florida. Natural disaster. The most satisfactory answer to the question of why one person seems to be prosperous, healthy, and lucky, while another suffers from poverty, disease, and misfortune can be found in the law of karma and only in the law of karmas. There's no answer otherwise. Because God is a just God. God does not show any partiality. God is bestowing grace on everybody equally. But it's our karmas whether we are ready to receive that grace or not. According to this law, everyone is responsible for their own actions. That means we have a full freedom. Karmanya eva adhikara aste. We have the full freedom to do the karmas as we wish. No one can reap the fruits of another's actions, nor escape the fruits of their own actions. When we do not know the exact cause of the particular event, we call it an accident. But nothing happens accidentally. There are no accidents in this universe. But we just use that word accident because we cannot explain it. That means our own intellect is so small, we really cannot understand it, and we say it's accident. We sowed the seed of that so-called accident in the form of our previous actions, whether in this life or in a previous one. Remember that. These karmas, they travel with us, or we travel with the karmas. There is no reason to blame anyone for our current problems and circumstances. Whether we know it or not, we are bound by the ropes of our own karmas. It is through our karmas that we reward or punish ourselves. We do it. Nobody else is doing it. If I put my hand in the fire, it's my action. If I live a life of a selfless service, it's my action. So through our karmas, we reward or punish ourselves. Either we bind ourselves further or we release ourselves right now. Our karmas are also our innate guides. That means our good karmas internally, they keep on guiding us in the form of our inner inclination, tastes, and interests. Everybody has a different inclination. And inclination is not just given to us by God. We created our own inclination through our karmas. Remember that. Someone might say that it sounds like that people get what they deserve when we put it this way. In other words, victims of war and poverty have brought their misfortunes on themselves. Some people find this concept troubling. That how can we say that? A baby is born with a certain disease. And we just start saying that it is the baby's karmas from the previous lives. But we got to learn how to put this knowledge into the right perspective. Because this is the law. But put it in the right perspective. Great teachers of the law of karma, the yogis, or you can say that teachers of karma yoga, do not tell us to disregard others' suffering by attributing it to their karma. So never utter these words, because otherwise you are creating bad karma, that you are getting what you deserve. You or anybody who says that or thinks that is creating new bad karma. It is a grave mistake to discount those who appear less fortunate by thinking, oh, well, it's their karma, and who am I to interfere with the law of God? So beware of this. Okay, so yogis, yogic teachers, they never tell us to do that. The law of karma should be applied to oneself and to oneself alone. When I'm going through the tough time, I should remember that I must have done something. Even then, it must be done with a transformative attitude. Okay, so it's like I want to transform myself. In the past, I must have done something and I need to reap the outcome of that karma. But now I'm going to do good karmas. Because karmas, we have all done pap and punya karmas, good karmas and not so good karmas. Good karmas at the time of when they fructify, we forget. But when the outcome of the bad karmas come, then we just think that, oh my God, what happened to me? At that time, think about it. Okay, instead of going into the depression, transform your attitude. The concept must not be used to judge others. Remember that. If you judge others, the law of karma dictates that you will be judged. If you are not so affected by adverse karmas as many others seem to be, then make the best use of your good karmas, which have started yielding their fruits. You remember, from the storehouse of our karmas, a handful of karmas as prarabdha we have brought, and in that handful of karmas, nobody can say that my prarabdha is 100% punya karmas. There's some pap karmas also. When the punya karmas are yielding the fruits, make use of that to create more new good karmas. And when the outcome of the pap karmas are fructifying at that time, remember, I need to transform myself, not just to blame God or blame others or even blame myself. I need to just look at the things properly. sow the seeds of other good karmas for the future. Keep doing good karmas. One of the best ways to do that is to serve those who seem to be less fortunate than you are. Okay? Not out of arrogance, not putting them down, but thinking that God has given me right now the fruits of my good karmas. I want to use that and share it with others. And this way, in result, I am creating more new good karmas. Now the question is, are we totally at the mercy of our karma? The answer is both yes and no. See, that's why Lord Krishna said the theory of karma is very gone, very deep. By virtue of being born as humans, we possess a more evolved body, more evolved brain, senses, mind than do other creatures. We know that. We are on the top. Our innate abilities and intelligence enables us to build comfortable homes. Average home is like a palace these days. We can move from one place to another within few hours. We can explore new ways to improve the quality of our lives. Only human beings have done that. Plants, animals, other creatures, they do not have that privilege. But how we use this privilege is totally up to us. Are we making the best use of these unique gifts that distinguish us from other forms of life here on this earth? Are we just a victim of our karmas? Or do we want to free ourselves from these karmas? We must not forget that our knowledge, capacities, resources are limited. Even though we have the freedom, but still we are limited. Even the most knowledgeable, powerful, resourceful person has limitation. No one has complete freedom to choose, change, and transform the circumstances that are a result of their own karmas. So that's why I said the answer to that question is both yes and no. Can we know what our karmas are? No. Definitely not unless we are omniscient. Unless we are Trikaldarshi. Unless we are Jivan Mukta. Even if by some miracle we know our karmas related to a dozen lifetimes, that knowledge is just a drop in the bucket. It is impossible to know what all our karmas are. I would like to add, nor is it necessary. Yoga masters and texts advise against brooding on the past. Live in the present. Learn to perform actions that nullify the effects of bad karmas and activate the good karmas so that they ripen faster, making the present productive. This is the purpose of spiritual sadhana. Lord Krishna said, the fire of knowledge that is produced through these spiritual practices, the sadhana, burns your karmas. He said, all your karmas. Just remember that. We got to just be on the path of spirituality with the proper knowledge. With that kind of a fire, the fire of knowledge will burn all the karmas. Otherwise, we'll think that, no, I want to just keep my good karmas. Then you're attached to the karmas. You say, I want to burn only the bad ones. No, you want to burn all of them. Spiritual practices affect our karmic field, making our present brighter, freer, and more productive. When we undertake a spiritual practice, it's like turning on a flashlight to remove the darkness rather than counting how many objects be concealed in the glow. I remember my own Gurudevji's words when he, in a dream, he was a student, in a dream, his Ishta Devta, Yogeshwar Prabhu Ramlalji, he showed him the darshan in dream. He said, when I woke up, I just walked in the light of that divine light and reached at the feet of my own Guru, Swami Mulukaraji. This is what happens. Culmination of that sadhana. We don't need to count our karmas. We don't need to brood about how long and how many of them are lying there. Get in touch with that eternal light which is already lit inside with the help of the sadhana. Achieving freedom from the bondage of karma does not require knowing what our karmas are, how many there are, or where they are stored. What it does require is coming to know who is truly responsible for performing actions, storing them in the form of karmas, and ultimately reaping the fruits. Remember that. In other words, the only thing that matters is that you are here as a result of your karmas. It is through the karmas you are creating here, and now that you can get rid of your past. So that means the whole fabric is about karma. The degree and intensity of your determination is what decides how much of your karma can be worked out, how fast, when, and how. So in other words, the whole freedom you have over here in this area. That's why the definition of yoga, according to our great rishis, or even God incarnate, Lord Krishna, what did he say? Yoga karmasu kaushal. That is another beautiful definition of yoga. Yoga is learning the art of performing positive actions lovingly and wholeheartedly, skillfully. Yoga karmasu kaushalam, kushalta, skillfulness. So performing one's action skillfully is called yoga. Ultimately, according to yoga, the only way one can acquire freedom from karmas once and for all is to acquire knowledge of the real doer of all actions, and to realize that we bind ourselves by mistaking or considering ourselves to be the doer. See, that is the problem we make. That is the big mistake. We think we are the doer, and we keep on accumulating more and more karmas. In our scriptures, we learn who is the doer. I am only the watcher. The doer is the Prakriti. When we understand the distinction between these two, we start living a life more freely. How is it possible to know what actions I must perform and which I can pass by? Because sometimes that question comes too. Because constantly we are doing karmas. Remember, acquiring knowledge about all this is not a one-time event. It is a matter of a gradual unfoldment. That's why you got to stay on the path of spirituality. That's why we got to keep on learning more and more and more by studying different scriptures, paying attention to it, and then learning from it what should I do and what should I not do. The first step is to understand your position in relation to your immediate environment. That means your family, your children, your professional life, or the people you interact with most often. It's very important to know that inner circle. You need a clear understanding of the difference between your real duties and your useless involvements. Duties we must do, but the useless involvement we got to keep on pruning. Sometimes we just don't do our duties, we just want to get involved into the useless things, where we are not cultivating good karmas, but we just sense of arrogance makes us do it, or lack of knowledge. So by useless involvement, I mean meddling in the lives of others. And out of ignorance, attachment, desire regarding such meddling as your duty, we call it our duty, but it's not. If you cannot tell the difference between actions you must carry out because of the accumulated power of your karma, because there are so many of them, those are unnecessary, you are performing your actions blindly. The fruit of such blind actions will blind you further. Eventually, you will reap the fruits of these blind karmas also. You got involved into somewhere uselessly, you will have to pay for those karmas too. Gaining a clear understanding of this process. That means acquiring the ability to distinguish between your duty and unnecessary actions does require effort. Because somebody says, I don't know. Sit down and think about it. You need to sit sometimes at the feet of your accomplished teachers. You need to get some help. That's why Guru is important. Somebody might say, my Guru is not reachable. Gurus are always reachable. Somebody can say, my Guru is not in the human form anymore. Guru is still reachable. Guru was not a body. Sit quietly, connect with the Guru. You will get the clear answer. But if you're fortunate enough to have a Guru in life, these days we can call the Gurus, send the messages. If you cannot do that, if our Guru is too busy, that's not a Guru. Guru should be available. In the body, not in the body. Always. The next step in gaining knowledge is to learn how to liberate yourself from the karma that you cannot ignore. These karmas have started bearing fruits, and dealing with them is your duty. At this stage, knowledge involves understanding that this world consists of both good and bad, pleasant and unpleasant, and that experiencing these pairs of opposites is part of life. The only way to liberate yourself is to focus your energies on the higher goal of life. This will help you free you from complaints about the past and worries about the future, because that's what mind does most of the time. Wants to stay in the past or go into the future. And in the process, what happens? We just drain our energy without any purpose. Just keep on thinking, keep on brooding, keep on remembering, and then we get exhausted. Gaining knowledge means convincing yourself that life is not confined to trivial issues. Okay? And circumstances that confront you daily. I want to stress again that this knowledge is not something that you acquire in one day. These days, we just want everything in the pill form. That's not how this knowledge comes. It's so subtle, so deep, so vast. Nor is it true that once you have it, you don't have to work for it anymore. You have to keep on working on it. Constant study, contemplation, interaction with those who live by this knowledge are required. Okay, that is a sadhana. This will allow you to refine continually and reinforce what you already know and expand your knowledge further. This is called spiritual maturity. Finally, the aspirant glimpses during meditation or even prayers or even doing your regular chores, the higher truth, technically called Brahma. Because Brahma is not somewhere else. Brahma is inside us. Brahma is outside us. Brahma is in everybody. You can visualize or get the experience of Brahma in a blade of grass. I remember a few years ago, there was a young lady from here, went to India with me, Spanish lady. She visualized Jesus Christ sitting, standing next to the mandir in the ashram. Then she saw later on, she was walking on the street and there was a pile of garbage and she said, I saw God over there. So this kind of a practice shows you these glimpses everywhere. At the dawn or at the dusk, it doesn't matter. Midday or midnight, the sadhak can experience the universal nature of the individual self, which is identical with the universal self, which is called Brahma. So the Atma and Brahma, same. So in the light of this knowledge, even life's greatest calamities become irrelevant. This light is so bright that it burns all karmas in an instant. A person is still living, that's a Jivan Mukta. But karmas are just like a burnt rope. If there's a rope and you burn it, it looks like a rope, but when you touch it, it's ash. That's how the karmas are in this kind of a Jivan Mukta person. You see this person walking and talking and eating and smiling. But Prarabdha, Sanchit, Kriyaman, they're all like ashes. They don't have any effect. Burnt rope cannot tie again. All burnt karmas with the fire of knowledge cannot bind us again. So this was just a little more information about the karmas. So we'll end it over here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnase Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for joining.